Bison Media Zone on WDAY Extra.
Welcome, everybody, to the Bison Media Zone here on WDAY Extra. We do it each and every Wednesday at 10:30-ish. We're hitting there pretty close on time. Back with Mike McFeely from the Forum. Stace's on vacation, so I put your bill upstairs that you hopefully will be compensated appropriately for 3 straight weeks you're joining us here.
I'll take that up with the honchos.
He's on vacation. That's perfect.
Okay, perfect. Yep, sure.
And it's Dakota Marker Week. Who takes vacation this week? Number 1 versus number 2. North Dakota State, South Dakota State. We can lament where FCS football is at, but for 1 week, Michael, this is pretty good this weekend.
First of all, the smart people take vacation the week of the Dakota Marker.
That's true.
Okay,
Yes.
And secondly, yes. I mean, this is, as I wrote in my column last week, and we've talked about on your program, with all the teams that have left FCS, and I've been banging the drum for like 104 years now that NDSU should go to FBS, and I just wrote an open letter to Gloria Navarez to come to Fargo.
Right?
Oh, I've gotten 4 phone calls from staff already. But this is a game. This is not Murray State. This is not Indiana State. This is not Drake. This is a fun week for North Dakota State football. And I hope that people are appreciating it out there in Bisonville.
But the Bison are not 100%. And let's start with quarterback. We hit this last week, and we're still going to hit it here. Cam Miller is still not 100%. He may not be for the rest of the regular season. Saturday, there was a couple plays. You referenced one yesterday where he airmailed a throw on Braylon Henderson. There was another you're going to see here where he was trying to move out of the pocket in a typical way that Cam would evade a guy. He just can't. And Tim Polisic said he looked better on this Monday than he did a week ago Monday, which you would think since it was a couple days removed from the injury. But it clearly looks like he's not going to be 100% by Saturday night.
Well, Tim Polisic also said, I don't think he was as good as I thought he was. I think that's what he said. So, watching the film, I guess he went, oh, okay, there was some places where he couldn't do the normal Cam things.
Just couldn't move, right.
And so that's a big deal. And, we're going to talk about a couple of the other injuries, I'm sure. But the quarterback has to be healthy for NDSU. You're going to be able to get by Southern Illinois. You're going to be able to get by Murray State. You're going to be able to get by whomever else the rest of the way. I don't know that you're going to be able to get by South Dakota State if Cam Miller cannot do all the things that he needs to do, because there's going to be a pass rush. This is a good team.
Yeah.
This is not the schlumps of the Missouri Valley. This is the best team in FCS still, I think. Even though North Dakota State's going to be in this game, I believe.
Yep.
But Cam's got to have his full arsenal available to him, and I don't know that he will. I can't speak for him. Don't know that he will.
Not sure if he will the rest of the season either. That could linger.
I think we just need to worry about this one game. I mean,
true.
One game at a time, Dom. but I mean, this is the game. Again, they're going to be able to get by Murray State next week.
And Northern Iowa.
And Northern Iowa, likely at home.
And then they have their bye.
But this is the game that they need to have for multiple reasons. If you want to get into them, we can. Yeah. But, just this week is the important thing.
So Polisic then said he headed off as the pass. He's going to say, well, I know the next question is, why didn't I put the other guy in? And he was of the mindset, we're up 17-3. We're going to do this and get out of here with a road win.
I'm fine winning 17-3 is what he said. And we've heard that and seen that before of North Dakota State. Yep. Every good football team, coaches have to make decisions when they're up on an inferior team about what's the point of, does it matter if you score 40 points or 72 points?
Right,
I mean, it just doesn't matter for North Dakota State. But, I mean,
because I've had more fans email me this week, well, if Miller wasn't 100%, why didn't Peyton play more or maybe just play the whole game?
But again, we've talked about this before. Right. It's football.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean that you can't, show, it's not soft to say I'm hurt.
No.
It's not a manly thing, but we've talked about it before, and I've said this before now for the 5th time. If your right guard has an injured knee and says, Coach, my right knee hurts, the coach says, I don't care, get back in the game.
You're going to play.
If a guy has a dislocated finger at Western Illinois, the center, for example, and the offensive line coach says, get back in the game.
He's going back in.
Then you can't. That's a tip of the cap to Connor Riley there, by the way. For fans who don't know what we're talking about. You can't tell the quarterback, well, okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
If you're hurting a little bit, you can come out of the game. We'll put your backup in. It can't work that way. And Cam Miller's an All-American quarterback who is still the favorite for the Walter Payton Award. And so how do you say, okay, we're going to take our best player off the field because his ankle hurts?
Not gonna.
I don't think you can do
You're
that.
not going to do that. They are going to be without the Bison. That is one of their best defensive players, certainly Saturday, and looks like for the rest of the season. And Dylan Hendricks, who went down in a non-contact play on Saturday. Tim Polisic said yesterday that he will not be available Saturday and likely not available for the rest of the season for a 6-year guy who dealt with numerous injuries, especially in his neck. This is a major blow for the Bison defensively.
Well, number one, it's a major blow for Dylan Hendricks
Yes.
because of all the things we've talked about. And you just mentioned that he's just had this career of just kind of one thing after another.
Yeah.
He finally got healthy last year and was the top pass rusher for the Bison last year before he got hurt and again had to miss the
Montana
game.
Yeah.
game.
Yep.
He's having a nice year this year. He's their key pass rusher again this year. And now he's going to miss the rest of the year, barring some sort of miraculous recovery
Unless
from
Grant
from a knee
Olson's in and
injury.
goes out there on one
And
leg,
how
right?
effective is he
Yeah.
going to be and all
Yeah,
those things.
correct.
And Tim Polisic mentioned yesterday, Dylan has life decisions now to
Yep.
make as opposed to just football decisions.
Yep.
And so again, aside from all the rest of the year, for this week, this is a big deal for North Dakota State to lose their best pass rusher on a defensive line that's been really good
Yeah.
the last several weeks
Yep.
and is one of the strengths of the team. I think the Bison defensive line is an advantage over the Jackrabbits.
That was my next question to you, especially with the new starters up for the
Yeah.
Jacks are going to make their first game in the Dome. That's a distinct, I thought, advantage for the Bison D-line.
There's several areas where I think the Bison have an advantage. Not many,
Yeah.
but a handful in this game. I think defensive line was one of them, and so I think they still do. They'll be okay over the course of the season. But boy, for this game, you sure would like to have them out there.
Toby Annetta likely to make his first career start. We've seen flashes from Toby against Southern Illinois last week, early in the season. Big man from East Ridge High School down in the Twin Cities. I mean, he's the prototypical size, Mike, you want at that spot.
He's got to be the guy.
Yeah.
He's not a sixth-year guy, and he doesn't have the experience that Dylan Hendricks has.
Nope.
But it's every football coach will tell you, and Tim Polisic said
Yeah.
yesterday, doesn't matter. We have what we have, and we have to go out there and play with it.
Well, let me do a little lightning round here with you. Quarterback, that advantage check mark goes to.
I think that's about equal.
Yeah, it's a push there, I would agree.
Push there, yep.
Running back,
South Dakota State,
wide receiver.
North Dakota State,
Yeah. Tight ends, probably to the
Dakota State.
Jacks there.
South Dakota State.
O-line,
North Dakota State.
D-line, you just said
North Dakota
Bison.
State, yep.
Linebackers, probably
the Jacks.
there.
Yep.
Secondary.
Probably the Jacks as well, just with experience.
Yeah.
They have like 9
Special
seniors
teams,
back
though.
there.
I mean, Dustman does both the kicking and the punting for the Jacks. The Bison special teams have been pretty good.
They have been good.
Yeah.
They have. Although the injuries now are starting to kind of show up in special teams too, right?
Eli Ozik's battling a
The
little
Bison
ankle
are
deal.
missing
Yep.
some guys that have been out there making tackles
Yes.
and everything else, and so they've had to move some guys around.
Yep.
So that's something else to watch.
South Dakota State, we've talked about on this program and on Hot Mic, just seemed like early in the season, like the Oklahoma State game, all right, they didn't maybe compete as well as we thought.
Expected more out
Right.
of them. You kind of went, where's that the two-time champion?
Right. Incarnate Word, they messed around with a bit. Now, granted, UIW is a top, probably 11 team in the FCS.
And they have some skill players
Right.
that can get some things done.
Then Augustana game was weird on that.
Yep.
Then they played Southeast Louisiana, and then something happened there after the bye, because after that they've been lights out and showed us, hey, we're still South Dakota State.
Yeah, they did do that. And we'll see. Now, I think the Bison are going to be, aside from Oklahoma State, the best team they're going to see.
Correct.
And we don't even know how good Oklahoma State is, by the way, because they're now 3-3, and they're BYU's favored by like 10
Yeah.
points over
Yep.
Oklahoma State. So I don't think they're the world beaters that we thought they were before the season. But
Or Mike Gundy thought they were going into the season.
yeah, exactly
either.
right. But given the environment, given the motivation that North Dakota State has, given the importance of the game, I think this will be SDSU's toughest test to date, and they'll be up for it as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bunch of veteran guys. I mean, South Dakota State just continues to stay old.
Yeah.
In an era when nobody is
Nope.
old, the Jacks and the Bison have done pretty well in
Yes.
terms of staying old. And so it'll be a test for the Jacks.
Let me put it to you simply. How good is SDSU this season? They're not 23 good, but they're still, I think, the number one
the 23
team, right?
team was
All-timer.
it could be in the discussion for top 5,
Yeah.
top 4, top 3
They're in that conversation.
FCS team
Yep.
of all time. I don't think this team is, because, again, you can't take Isaiah Davis, Mason McCormick, Garrett Greenfield, Isaiah Stolbert, all the kids you took
Jason
off
Freeman.
that Jason,
Yeah.
all the kids you took off that team. You can't just say, well, they're just as good. they're still really, really
The
good.
Yankees,
The Yankees,
Zach
right.
Hines.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You can't take those kids off the team and say that they're
No.
just as good, but they're going to be just fine. And I still think they're the most talented
Wow.
team in FCS. I do.
Couple injury concerns for them. Tucker Large, their great safety. Cal Reeder, their other great safety. Both have been out. Reeder's not going to play. Large is questionable. That's something that's an area. If Cam Miller is even 80%, 85% with the Bison wide receivers, that's something maybe to exploit on Saturday
Yeah,
night.
and that's been a pleasant surprise for the Bison has been that wide receiver
Yeah.
group. If
Yep.
you recall that we kept talking before the season about, oh my gosh, who's going to play offensive line?
Yep.
Oh my gosh, who's going to be the receivers for
catch the
NDSU?
ball. I said it
Gosh,
right here. Yep.
Guess what?
Yeah.
Well, those are the two strongest areas possibly of the team.
Yes.
And
So that shows you what I know.
right, and Tim Pausick seems to remind us in every press conference, and every time we run into him after a press conference, and every time we run into him on the stadium field after the
Correct.
game, he seems to remind us that we don't know what the heck we're talking about when it comes to what we thought were question marks for the Bison.
I appreciate him watching. Thanks for watching. We'll take a break. We come back. We're going to look at the Valley standings and some of the highlight games outside. I don't know if there's a bigger one. There can't be a bigger one in Fargo.
No.
We'll take a look at that when we come back on the Bison Media Zone on this Wednesday on WDAYX. We're back right after this. Welcome back here on the Bison Media Zone. A look at the Missouri Valley standings. Obviously, we know what's at stake on Saturday. North Dakota State, by the way, its bye week is still now for 3 more weeks. They have Northern Iowa and Murray State before the Bison have the week off. The one surprise, Michael, I think we talked about me briefly yesterday. Mo State in its last year here is sitting there in 4th in the league standings at 2-0, and they play both the Jackrabbits and the Bison the last 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I think they're better than expected. Although, again, you have to kind of wonder who they played and who rules. But with the Missouri Valley, what it is, maybe they've played
Yeah.
teams that are decent by these Missouri Valley Football Conference standards. You look at that lineup, Dom, and like other than the Bison and the Jackrabbits, maybe the Coyotes as
Coyotes,
well.
yep.
We'll see. But who stands out? I mean, look at.
Yep.
I mean, North Dakota we think is okay, but NDSU beat them by
Handily.
whatever,
Yep.
24 points
Yep.
or whatever, and
Yep.
that was with a weird, touchdown late off a punt return. Indiana State, Illinois State, Youngstown, Northern Iowa, Southern Murray.
Yeah. Yep.
That's not good.
No.
That is not good at all.
No.
So maybe the Bears are the 4th best team in the league.
And Jacob Clark, their quarterback, University of Minnesota transfer, that they're all in on this to get ready for the FBS experience for next season. That they're, you know what, we're going to put all of our chips on the
Yep.
table. Unlike what Delaware is doing, we're going to see what we got and get ready for Conference USA for next
Delaware
season.
is still like 6-1 or
Right,
something. aren't
correct.
they?
Which says a lot about what the CAA is currently, which is a whole larger
but
conversation
the odd
we
thing
can
about
have.
Missouri State is nobody's paying attention to them.
No.
And nobody's cares necessarily in FCS because they're not eligible for the playoffs.
Right.
They're not eligible to be included in the stats
FCS
Perform
poll.
media poll.
Nope.
The coaches poll slipped them into
Yep.
24,
At
whatever.
the bottom of the poll, yep.
But again, it's Missouri State. We've seen them bubble up, during the Bobby Petrino era
Yep.
a little bit.
Made 2
but
playoffs
were they
there.
really
Yeah.
that good at
No.
that point? And are they really that good now?
I'll just be interested, the Bison play Mo State November the 16th, and the Jacks play in the following week. That game is actually in, I think, in Springfield to end the season.
Yep.
That how big though potentially they could be.
Yeah.
When I
Could
thought
mean a
they were,
lot.
I thought they were afterthought games that could be
Yes.
completely different on
Yes.
that now.
Yeah, it kind of changes if Missouri State is legit,
Right.
it changes the dynamic.
Correct.
Because you thought that North Dakota State was going to get a cakewalk at home against Missouri State and then
Right.
go to Vermillion
Yeah.
for what promises to be, if the Bison win or lose this Saturday,
Monster.
it's going to be a huge game. Possibly for the 2nd seed in the Valley or a top 4 seed or whatever it's going to be for.
Yep.
But now maybe that Missouri State game isn't the walkover we thought it was.
Let me ask you this before we look at the spotlight games for the week. The loser of this game, how far down could they possibly fall for seeding wise in your mind?
I don't think
The
they should fall
loser of
very
the game.
far.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, who knows what the committee's
4
gonna
is
do.
probably what I'm at,
Right.
I would think.
I mean,
yeah.
the poll's a different story.
Yeah, the Bison
If-
or the
if-
Jacks lose, they'll probably be 7 or 8.
No. If the Bison lose, they'll be like 12th. If the Jacks lose, they'll be second.
Second.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah, that's
it's
probably
just,
accurate.
So just, but whatever. That's my
But-
thoughts on the poll.
Knowing full well that Montana State wins out, they're the one at
Yep.
12-0. That's going to be the the winner of the Jacks Bison game is going to be the 2 seed, and you have to figure South Dakota's in that
mix. If they
mix.
win out, right? Let's say the Bison win Saturday.
Okay.
They still have to win out to be the 2nd seed. They can't lose at South Dakota
No,
to be the
correct.
2nd seed.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
It's the same for the Jacks, I would think.
Right, because SDSU, by the way, has USD
Yes.
next week in
Right.
Brookings, which is
Right.
going to shape up
Which
to be
is,
a big game.
I mean, I know nobody wants to hear about it, but the Jacks, I mean, I think they're looking more at this game
Yes.
than the South Dakota
Correct.
game.
Yes.
I mean, I think the Bison are a bigger rival of the Jackrabbits than USD
Correct.
is, the same way that they're a bigger rival. The Jacks are a bigger rival for the Bison than UND
is, correct.
It's the same situation.
Correct. But the conversation is around 4 or 5 teams in those 4 spots. I don't think you're going to see anybody like Mercer get into the
who is
top
the
4.
fourth-
That's the thing.
Like-
Who would get into that conversation?
Like right now, we think there is Montana State, South Dakota State, and NDSU, and whatever order those teams finish,
Right.
and not whatever. Like who's the 4th team? Because
South Dakota?
We thought maybe it was. Right now it's South Dakota, right?
Yep.
But I don't think the Coyotes aren't going to run the table. though.
Villanova, maybe, because of who they're
Maybe.
playing. I mean, that's probably
I guess
in that
but,
league.
I mean, are they any better than the Mercer Bears?
Central Arkansas.
They've had a loss
Yeah.
though. I mean, they can't. I mean,
Somebody's got to get seated there.
no, I know that. But I mean, if the Mercer Bears run the table, the SoCon is a better league than the CAA.
I would. Well, by the way, Mercer plays Alabama. Let me just throw that in there.
So they might not run the table.
But they're 10-1.
Right, but if they're 10-0 or whatever, and they
Yeah.
lose to Alabama,
Yeah.
that's losing to Alabama.
Yep.
I mean, they're not going to be
Then they
punished
should
for
be a
that.
top 4, I would say.
Okay.
I
all
would
right.
say.
I don't know
Yeah.
that, but I'm just.
They
throwing
should be in the
question out there.
conversation of that. How about that?
Okay. Yeah.
All right, we
that's
can
fair.
do that. Let's take a look at the other games on the schedule this week that'll have our attention. Clearly, the game in Fargo will. It's a biggie in the Southland with McNeese and Incarnate Word. UIW. McNeese is hanging around as well. There are those Mercer Bears who are unbeaten. They have Samford. Their 2 big games are still to come, Mike. They play East Tennessee State
Yeah.
later in the year. Does Mercer, and they have a game with Chattanooga as well. That's going to be a biggie to come up
Ooh, yes,
later
that's a couple
in the year.
dandies in the
And
SoCon.
then Delaware and Richmond there. I know Delaware's ineligible. They're unbeaten, and Richmond's having a nice year at 4-2 so far.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty thin pickings outside of what's in
Correct.
Fargo.
The big game is in
I'll go
Fargo.
ahead and
There's
say
no
that.
doubt.
There's no secondary big game, I don't think, out
Well,
of any of those.
a couple years ago, I tell you, UND Northern Iowa would be, but with the way UNI is at right now,
Yeah,
UND better win that game, I would say, handily.
Yes,
They
I know,
should.
I agree. UNI is not in a good spot, and
Yeah.
if UND somehow loses that game, then that's wow. They
Yeah.
really have some issues up in
That's
Grand Forks.
right. That's
I
not.
don't think that's going to happen.
No,
I think they'll be able to beat UNI.
and
But,
that's
is UNI? Are they going to? At some point, they have to, as Paulsek said yesterday, cowboy up and,
Yeah.
and get something. I mean, they can't be this bad, can they be?
if it doesn't happen Saturday, I don't know when, because they've already got blasted by the Jacks and blasted by the Coyotes.
That's
And they
true.
have to come
That's
to
true.
Fargo still, too.
Yeah. So
I mean, this could get real bad
Yeah,
for
okay.
Northern Iowa. We're
All right.
talking 4-8 kind of bad, which
yep,
we haven't
that's
seen out of
been
them.
a long time
Right,
since
we
the
have-
Panthers have been that
We
bad.
have not seen that. Reminder for everybody that the game, of course, is Saturday night, 7 o'clock, ESPN2. Bison Game Day will get you started. We're on, of course, at 10 a.m. before the craziness of the Fargo Dome is set to fill in there. It's just going to be a great environment. We're looking forward to that coming up on Saturday. And then don't forget, we'll also have a special Bison pregame live at 5:30 exclusively on WDAY Plus and Inforum.com to get you ready for the football game coming up on Saturday. As Scotty Miller would tell us, they're going to be hanging for the rafters on this one. One
Hopefully.
versus 2.
Hopefully, it should be great. If people are not excited about this game, they'll never be excited for another football game in Fargo.
The Mountain West Commissioner has a spot next to you in the press box. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's what I've been told. Yes, I'm going to guide her through the game.
Well, she can watch UTEP tonight play Florida International and then come to Fargo for the game
Well,
on
the
Saturday.
problem is that Toledo and Northern Illinois
Oh, yeah.
also play on Saturday, and those are the 2 teams that the Mountain West
Yeah.
is targeting allegedly to be their next members.
We got to roll. Thanks, everybody, for watching on the Bison Media Zone. We'll see you back here next Wednesday.